afternoon. So the topic for today is China. We're going to talk a little bit about China today. As many of you know, I teach at NYU in Fordham, and a lot of my students in the last 2 or 3 years have been Chinese nationals. Now, first off, let me say, these are some of the best, nicest, smartest, greatest students you could ever wish for as a teacher. They're humble, they're friendly, they work hard, they're cooperative. They don't speak much in class. They don't speak up much, right? They're not like big mouth Americans. They don't talk a lot in class. You really got to drag it out of them to get them to engage in class. But they're fantastic, and I really enjoy working with them. But there's a couple of topics that always pop up in class, especially with it being so heavy from the People's Republic. First off, the trade wars, all right? Let's look at these sort of quote-unquote trade wars with China and what's gone on. So there's always a lot of noise, there's always a lot of talk, there's always a lot of speculation. What's really happened, right? There have been some tariffs in steel, some tariffs in aluminum. These things are real. What really happens, right? Price of steel goes up, price of aluminum goes up, some other raw materials. All these prices get passed on downstream, right? So the American consumer ultimately is going to pay for these increases. So in the short term, what is this? It's really a way for Chinese steel manufacturers, Chinese aluminum manufacturers to raise prices in the long run. It's hard to raise prices in steel and aluminum. But with a tariff, now they can justify raising prices across the industry in a bulk way, and that pricing will be sticky 2-3 years down the road when inflation catches up. So they will keep pricing levels where they are. So really, even the people that you think are suffering in this trade war, they're going to win in the long run. They always do. So don't put too much stock into worrying about this trade war. China and the United States they're each other's biggest trading partners. We've got nothing but potential growth to be had in the future. There's so many ways that our economies benefit from this really positive, great relationship we have. Don't worry about the noise out of Washington. Don't worry about the noise out of our president. We've got a good thing going. Now, the other thing that you need to understand about China is the Belt and Road Initiative. And if you haven't heard much about this, I'll put a couple links in the description for some quick videos that are really descriptive and interesting. China is investing hundreds of billions to trillions of dollars into a massive infrastructure program that's really heavily targeted at areas in China that need a lot of infrastructure investment, particularly in the western part of China, which is relatively underdeveloped and needs a lot of basic stuff, roads, airports, bridges, railways, things like that. And then there's connecting infrastructure projects into all different parts of Asia, into Central Asia, into Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, all the other stands, down south into Pakistan. They're building 2 major ports in Pakistan that'll put them really close to the Persian Gulf, so that oil shipments can come out, go right past Iran into Pakistan, and boom, catch a couple train rides right up over the mountains in the Himalayas into Western China. This is a huge logistical game changer for China. It avoids that whole route down around through Thailand, down through the Straits of Malacca, and the whole trip up the eastern coast of China. So it's a really big deal. It's going to save a lot of time, a lot of money off the shipping costs. As well, it makes them a little more independent politically because they're less dependent on these trade routes, which the U.S. is currently essentially the defense provider on these trade routes. So protecting trade through the China Seas in that part of the world. So this is a major investment plan that they've embarked upon, and they're putting billions and billions and billions of dollars into it, and it's changing political relationships in the East. So more countries are viewing China more favorably and working with China to a greater degree now because of this massive amount of investment. So all of this is going on right now. So you might say, like, well, what is one reason why we have a trade war? Well, one reason for the trade war is that the United States can't really stop China from its massive investment scheme, but we can maybe slow it down a little bit. So one thing you could argue that the trade war does is maybe it slows down the ability for the Chinese to invest so much in this plan. All right, and so talk of a war, talk of growing tensions between the two countries, this is just a way to gin up defense spending. So rather than allocating more money into infrastructure, they'll say, oh, the Chinese have to spend more on battleships or planes or something like that. But at the end of the day, what you need to know about China is they're making massive investments in infrastructure. It's a really big country that's growing a lot on a per capita basis in terms of income. going forward, if you're an entrepreneur in the New York City area and you're not aware of the way the Chinese presence is growing, you should be. They are a growing market, a growing demographic in this area, and I'm sure other parts of the country as well. It's probably not going to change anytime soon. In fact, it's probably going to increase as the wealth in China increases. Don't fear it, embrace it. It represents business. It represents opportunity with some amazing people that, again, are some of the hardest working, nicest, friendliest, most humble people you could ever hope to meet. All right? So those are two main issues going on in China right now. One, the trade war. I say sell it, discount it, don't worry about it. And two, the One Belt, One Road initiative, I say buy it. It's the real deal. It is a game changer for China. It may not happen as quickly as some people think, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And for Americans, it means nothing but opportunity, nothing but growth. Don't fear it, embrace it. That's my thought for the day. Take care.